Welcome to the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast. Your hosts, Bill McKenna, Paul Robert, and special guests discuss ideas for creating alignment in your sales and marketing efforts and ways to accelerate growth. Now let's get started.
Hey, good morning, Bill. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you again.
Great to see you as well, Paul, as always.
I was thinking of you last night because in our last podcast, you mentioned Chick-fil-A when we were talking about value prop and the brand and so forth. And I had dinner at Chick-fil-A last night, and man, I love what they do from a branding standpoint. You know, we hear about them all the time, Bill. I mean, you can't go to a conference, right, and not hear a presenter talk about Chick-fil-A. But I love what they do from a branding standpoint. I mean, simple, like eat more chicken, get you to keep going to Chick-fil-A. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is. It's a great experience, and it's they've worked so hard at, obviously their food is and people may agree or disagree whether the food is the best in the world or not. But I personally like their chicken sandwiches. So that's just me.
Yeah.
We're not too far from lunch, and I'm actually thinking about it now. But so anyway, but yeah, they've done an exceptional job, and really they focus so hard on their experience and their people training, right?
Yeah. And Bill, I think they're a really good example of what you and I are trying to accomplish with this podcast, the Credit Union Sales and Marketing Podcast, because their brand is what gets people in the door, right? And once you go to a Chick-fil-A, 90% of people are going to go back to Chick-fil-A, right? There's many people, or there aren't many people, I should say, that are only going to go to Chick-fil-A once. Well, what keeps people coming back? I don't think the food is extraordinary, but like you, I like the chicken sandwich. I like the grilled chicken better than the fried chicken, by the way. But here's the thing. Their people create a great environment. We know about the my pleasure, which they say when you say thank you, but it's also friendliness. It's also welcoming you when you come in the door. It's coming to your table to see if you need anything else, or, noticing that you didn't get 2 straws and you should have, and they bring it to you. Their people substantiate the brand with their actions. And I really think that's what makes Chick-fil-A a powerful brand and a good example for credit unions to follow.
Yeah, and a lot of their workers, it's not like their workers are necessarily all college educated, or they're not. They're just people. They're just people. Yep. A lot of young people that they've just been able to inspire with this brand and say, this is what we do and this is how we deliver it. And to be honest with you, it usually looks like their people are enjoying what they do as well. Yep. They're not there. Because let's take the contrary. How many times have we gone into a restaurant or a fast food establishment or
McDonald's
whatever, or even a service, a service station where you run in to pick up a cup of coffee or something, and the experience is just so negative. It's so like, I could care less about you, customer. You're bothering me right now. And when that happens to us, one of the illustrations I love to use is when you go to a restaurant and you have a rude server.
Yeah.
I always say a rude server, that might be the most unintelligent person in the world, because if you make your money on tips and you treat your customers rudely, you're not that bright. You're just not that bright.
You only have to be average, right, to still make a good living. I mean, if you're better than average, you're going to make a great living, depending on the restaurant that you're at. But your point's well taken. Hey, one other thing about Chick-fil-A, and I thought of it while you were alluding to the fact that they hire a lot of young people, college students largely. One of the things that we hear from our credit union clients on a regular basis is their angst over turnover, right? And how it's just a revolving door, or at least at periods of time, it's a revolving door, and how frustrating and challenging that is. And I get it. I've been in their shoes, so I know how difficult it is. But Chick-fil-A demonstrates how they have turnover. They know they're going to have turnover because they're hiring college students largely who aren't going to be there for the long haul. But they've built it into their culture and they've accepted that and they've created an efficient way of getting them up to speed. But back to where we started this conversation, it doesn't matter if somebody's been there for 2 days or 2 years, they know how to live the brand and they know how to create a memorable experience for their customers.
Yeah, and we have to be inspired when we work for someone, and I'm not saying that every position in the credit union is inspiring, but here's one thing I will say. The branch of the future, the branch of now, is absolutely more consultative than it is transactional, right? So those people that work in the branch today, we have to do a really good job of giving them the training they need to be a consultant rather than just a order taker or a transaction teller. And when we do that, we can help them because not only that, but we're more likely to keep those people when they become more educated about the products and services. When they become consultants, they're more likely to want to stay with it because of the value they create in the life of a member. And that's something that I don't think nearly enough credit unions think about. Let's make them something where they feel special. They can help people. Just doing a transaction is not very inspiring every day.
I love that you went there and used that word, Bill, because we try to use the word inspired and inspirational a lot. But I believe this, and this is purely anecdotal. I don't have any way of proving this, but you don't have any way of disproving it either. In the old environment in financial institutions, it was very operational, right? And it still is in many cases, and it still is in the call center, for instance. Well, a person, you or I, we don't need to be very inspired to process a transaction. Let's be honest. You're hitting keystrokes, right? And as long as the money goes in the right account and I give the consumer their receipt, that's all I needed to do. I didn't have to be inspired to do that. But as you're surfacing here, if we want our people to be consultative and really be empathetic and care about their members to an extent where we're going to sell to them, like we talked about in a previous podcast, we're going to educate them, we're going to build a relationship that can never be broken or would be very hard to break. If we're going to do that, we need people, employees who are inspired, who love our brand, who love our culture, who, they feel it in their every fiber of their being. This is who I am, not just who we are. This is who I am as well.
Yeah. And if people are, just let me make one quick comment here. I keep saying this.
I'm not going to let you do that.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I'm in control, actually. I could shut this podcast off right now, Paul. I could mute you and you'd have no control whatsoever.
I'm in control. Listen to this guy.
Anyway, well, I have the mouse in my hand. Let's just.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
Getting back to what I was saying, I almost lost my train of thought now. But I think I actually did lose my train of thought. I had something I thought was inspiring in itself.
Man.
But
well,
I had no idea what I was going to say. You got
that's all right.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the people, and that makes me think of another retailer that you and I have talked about before, and that's Buc-ee's. And Buc-ee's, for those who don't know, because they're not everywhere, they're predominantly in the Southeast. They started in Texas, but I think their growth has really been in the Southeast. Buc-ee's is a highway side convenience store on steroids. I mean, these things are 70, 80,000 square feet. They've got 100, that's right, 100 fuel pumps. They're huge, but their brand, Bill, is all about not just size, but friendliness and cleanliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're people. I mean, who's going to deliver that friendliness and who's going to keep the place clean? people. They've got to have inspired people that really believe in living their brand. So I know Buc-ee's is somebody that's impressed you as well.
It is, yeah. We go down to Florida, and my daughter lives down there, and we've stopped. And boy, I'll tell you what, it is impressive. It is. You can get the food in there. You can do, and then they have like 15 different departments of, every time I go in there, I try to get my wife out as quickly as possible, get the food, use the restroom, get the fuel, hit the road, because if not, she's in the home decor department, or she's buying something, and I'm like, just let's get out of here. We're not here for this right now.
Yeah. And it's not junk either. It's good stuff, and it's not cheap either. So
it's great. So it's a nice break from the road, right? To jump in there and then do a little shopping, walk around. You probably want to go in for 10 minutes. You're there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Exactly. Well, and see, that's the point, because their people create that type of welcoming environment. You know, I mean, prior to Buc-ee's, let's be honest, on your drives to Florida, you would pull into a gas station at an exit off of the highway, probably I-95, and you would fill up, you'd run in and use the restroom, maybe grab a soda, and you'd get the heck out of there as quickly as you could to get back on the road. Well, A, that's not good for you, because you were probably fatigued and needed to kind of chill for a little bit. But secondly, you didn't spend any more money there. You bought a, $4 or $5 bottle of soda, and that was about it. Buc-ee's, like you just said, you're there for 20, 30, maybe an hour, all because of the environment that they create.
So, hey,
here's just a quick shout out to our sponsor, ironistic.com. Hey, in today's world, everyone knows the importance of having a great website and having an integrated digital marketing plan. If your credit union, community bank, or any other company is looking for that help, I can highly recommend ironistic.com. Check them out.
I remembered what I was going to say, just so people think, what in the world is Bill thinking about? Real quick here. I say, if people are choosing our financial institution based on a basis point, a rate, or a fee, or just because of an extra dollar it costs them for something, shame on us. Because that is not a sustainable business model. It is not sustainable. And we have to be able to build a brand that people are loyal to, that they like, and they enjoy doing business with us. And that's the bottom line to that. So let's touch on step 5 in this whole process. We have these 7 steps, which again, we cross back and forth often on these, but let's just go to number 5, and it is brand deliverables. So let's talk about that, Paul. Let's talk about differentiation, which is the word I always can't say. But let's discuss this. I know I spelled it wrong 3 times, but let's discuss this a little bit for a few more minutes on this episode today.
I think when you talk about delivering your brand, when you talk about how do we differentiate, like Chick-fil-A and Buc-ee's, it has to start with your people and your culture. And so, Bill, when we work with a credit union, it's starting with not the brand. And I know you won't be offended by this. It's not really a marketing discussion. It is a culture discussion. And it's about what is our mission, what is our vision, and what are our values. We call it MVV, just for short. And many credit unions already have those, but they've had them for a long time, Bill, and their membership has changed and their marketplace has changed, but they haven't changed their MVV. Even if we don't change it, it's a really healthy and fruitful discussion to work through with the senior leadership team, maybe the next level down, and then even the board in some cases, because it gets to the heart of who are we today? What do we want to be in the future? And what do we need to do to get there? And that's all about our people, our culture, our delivery, and ultimately, to your point, our brand. So it really has to start with that culture component, I think.
Yeah, and those are great discussions to have. There's lots of ways to go about those discussions, but the important part is to have them and to talk about it. Because unless you identify that, how are you going to succeed to create a real relevant brand? And, one of the things I talk a lot about, I work with lots of different types of credit unions, as you do. different fields of membership. Some like community, some are multi-common bond, seg-based. And I think it's also important to understand who we're serving. And if it is community or those communities, how do we identify, how do we communicate what's important to them? How do we show that we understand that field of membership? Or if it is if we're a seg based, and even if we have hundreds of segs, there's probably 5, 6, 7, or 8 of them that are super important to us because of their size. And we have to understand, make sure we say the things that are relevant to those people. That's part of our marketing messaging. That's part of our brand creation. But really, that's really where marketing and segmentation comes in a little bit more than the actual culture. Because there's a lot of people that have built these brands or these positioning statements or slogans. It doesn't make them right or wrong, right? There isn't necessarily a perfect one, because we're usually trying to find a way, right, to create something different than our competitors. But that doesn't make it right or wrong. It really is the execution of that brand where we really move the needle.
Yeah, I want to jump back on to something you said about knowing who our member is. Equally important, Bill, is who our member is not, or who our potential member is not. And we, as an industry, and to a certain extent as a society, we don't want to exclude people, right? It's not good to exclude people. We should, want to welcome everybody. Well, in business, that's not always feasible, and we can't always be in our A game or on our A game with everybody. In fact, I don't think we ever can. And so let's go back to one of our retail examples we started talking about, Buc-ee's. One thing that impressed me the first time I pulled into a Buc-ee's is they have signs when you pull off of the highway and into their parking lot, no truckers. Now think about that. These are service stations on the side of the biggest interstates and the most traveled interstates in our country. There's thousands of truckers passing by them every day. And they're saying, hey, we love you guys, but we're not equipped to serve you. So thank you for thinking of us, but go to the guy at the next, go to the Loves at the next exit. And so that's a difficult thing for a lot of credit union execs to accept. But sometimes we have to really focus on who are we not going to serve.
Yeah.
And develop our brand, as you said, around the ones that we can serve, and we can serve exceptionally well.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And, something I see quite often is a lot of credit unions want to get into all these new products and services.
Yeah.
Let me use the example of a consumer, financing. We have loans and checking accounts and consumer, but so many of them we should do business too. They jump into business, but honestly, they're really not equipped to do business. If they're going to do business, they better take it seriously, have the right people in place, the right products and services in place. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But don't just dabble in products and services. And I see that all the time. And that's a mistake, because you're going to look bad when you go to serve someone in business and they go, you really don't get business, or you're not equipped to do it well.
Exactly.
That's bad.
You would actually look better, Bill, if you said to them, hey, you know what? We thought about offering business accounts, but we made a conscious decision we couldn't do that 100%. So therefore we weren't going to do it. What we can do 100% is serve your needs as a consumer. And we're dedicated to doing that.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to our discussion around mission, vision, values. That's the type of thing that we want to hone in on. Who are we serving? How are we going to serve them? And what do we need to do in every interaction? What do we need to do in every delivery channel? What do we need to do with, for the most part, every product and service that we offer to support our brand and to demonstrate to our members, hey, we're serious about what we're saying. Those aren't just 3 words on the wall. We mean in those, we believe in those, and we live those day in and day out.
Yeah. And just touch on one more thing here, and then we'll wrap this one up too, Paul. But mission, vision, and values. So tell me if I'm right on this, since again, you deal with the culture side of this much deeper than I do with more clients. Mission, I've seen forever. A mission statement, a vision statement. I've seen tons of vision statements. The values part, is that the area that we often don't see focused on?
Yeah. The values, we don't spend enough time on that. I've had one client for many years, and he refers to it as their three-legged stool. And if you don't have one of these three values, well, we all know what happens to a two-legged stool, right? So yes, values is something that we too often overlook, and we don't spend enough time weaving that into the discussion. And then, Bill, let me add on one final step. We refer to it a lot as MVV plus, and the plus is the behaviors. So you've got the values. Now you need to identify the behaviors. And I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but that's how we live it. That's how we make it actionable.
So there's
we can talk more about that in a future podcast for sure.
Right. But in summary, that's accountability.
Yeah. Right.
Accountability, right?
We're not just saying it, we're doing it, and we're going to hold you accountable to doing it.
Yeah. There's a process. That makes a lot of sense. Paul, this was another good discussion. I feel like every time we have this, it could go on for so much longer because there's so much to talk about and so many examples, but we're hoping that our listeners are finding some value in these conversations we're having. But we'll pick up again and we'll continue on through the process. We've got a couple more steps we're going to talk about as part of the 7 steps of branding. And then we're also looking forward to having some guests here, some new guests shortly to talk about some different things from their perspective, because we really do enjoy hearing from others. And hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in letting us know what you'd like to hear or talk about, make sure you take some time and, go and visit our website and check us out. Let us know if there's something you'd like to talk about. We appreciate your comments. And as I always tell people, your thoughts, your comments, and your snide remarks, I always kid about, because, hey, we are interested in hearing more. And we want to have this podcast be valuable to you. So thanks, Paul, for today. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Bill. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one. Take care.
See you.